Ah, oh, that's hot. That's hot.
Hey, my name is Anigami, a content creator here on this fine platform whose claim to fame was a series of critiques on hentai, Japanese animated pornography, entertaining and captivating literally hundreds, putting me on the map. Well, maybe not the map, more like a cruelly drawn vague set of directions scribbled on a stained napkin. But hey, introductions aside, I am here to share some of the best anime the year had to offer. A diverse yet approachable selection showcasing the calmness of camping to the spectacle of futuristic bionic boxing and everything else in between. Even if 2018 did have a slow start, you know what I'm saying? In a drastically skewed ratio and abundance of serviceable titles, in stark contrast to the select few that really truly wowed me, it was still a damn good year for Japanese cartoons and the ones that stood apart. If 2017 was a lush, fruit-bearing forest that I merrily frolicked through, generously plucking the plump, ripe seasonal offerings, ooh, the best CG anime ever created, don't mind if I do. Ooh, the finale to one of my favorite modern anime. Scrumptious. A chillingly unique slice of life I still regularly think about. Yum. Then 2018 was a desert. Sure, you may encounter the occasional oasis and path of foliage, but overall, it's just a whole lot of sand. Dry sand. Sora Yori is the first entry in what is my self-described holy trinity of slice of life anime that I just really connected with this year. A tale of adolescence, one of adventure and throwing caution to the wind, running and never looking back. And while I'm personally not a Japanese high school girl, as far as I know, nor do I have an important personal reason to venture off to Antarctica, there is a lot within Madhouse's original narrative here that we can all relate to. No matter what stage you are in your life, whether it be a student in high school or a middle-aged man working in a cubicle, that urge to be spontaneous, to chase after a dream, to drop everything and pursue your passions exists within us all. Sora Yori, from a narrative perspective, didn't need to overcomplicate itself with a complex plot or too many spinning plates. Because of this, we connect with this group of animated high school girls almost immediately. This, coupled with an extreme attention to detail and visual storytelling, from the cluttered, lived-in environments to character personalities being shown to the viewer rather than oh so commonly just told. The girls feel real the way they interact, joke, butt heads, and the emotional strain and outbursts that come from that tender age where not everything makes sense and putting themselves out there doing something so far larger than they actually are. Sora Yori is a series carried not by its premise, but the characters that engage with it. The ending, more specifically the laptop scene, is the type of ending where you just stare back at yourself after your media player classic playback stops and you just see your reflection in the black screen on the monitor, eyes red, cheeks a bit wet. I am not ashamed to admit I teared up a fair bit, but I wasn't really sad that it was ending, but just happy that I was there. If you're looking for a slice of anime featuring cute girls and their various hijinks and mishaps part of an expedition team in Antarctica, then you may not find what you're looking for in Sora Yori, as they don't even make landfall until the ending of the 9th episode. But if you're someone who finds some truth in the saying that it's about the journey, not the destination, I think you'll find value in what a journey this anime is. The 1997 series Revolutionary Girl Utena is one of my favorite anime of all time. A surrealist approach and deep dive coming-of-age story with valuable morals from one's identity to sexuality and adolescence. The titular Utena competes in a dangerous game where she must duel her fellow classmates at the academy who share matching rose-emblemed rings, competing for the prize in the form of a young, quiet woman, Anthea Himemia, the Rose Bride. The fragile mental states, weaknesses, and tribulations of the combatants are all reflected tangibly within the arena through several deep layers of symbolism, with a dedicated, still active forum partaken in heated debates and discussions over the most seemingly minute details. Oh yeah, and in the film following the series, Utena turns into a car. Just figured I'd make sure you're aware of that little small throwaway factoid. No big deal. Anyway, so in 2018, Studio Kinema Citrus just decided to, well, remake Utena, minus the whole becoming the car thing, small little detail I just mentioned, although ironically enough, it looks like that bizarre fever dream of a scene did inspire the mechanical-esque transformation sequence in Revue, so I digress. The 99th class of Seisho Music Academy, a school for all aspects of theater and the finer arts, from production stagehands to writers and of course stars, is rehearsing for their annual production of Starlight. But behind the scenes, auditions for another production are underway, a competition to decide the top star, where the seemingly normal class during the day compete in a theatrical duel hosted by a talking giraffe voiced by Kenjiro fucking Suwada. So yeah, there's a lot to take in, and of course little of what I said should be taken directly at face value, because much like Utena and a nice plump onion, Revue Starlight has layers. Revue Starlight is a commentary on Japanese theater, more specifically the Takarazuka Revue. It's an all-female musical performance company. Alongside several instances of character and backstory-specific symbolism, the vast majority of imagery and visual storytelling is a critique on the antiquated training process and top star system. So yeah, it's more fair to say that a lot of the inspiration for the series, such as character names, conventions, and mannerisms, were all intentional, reflecting Takarazuka, while the general structure, pacing, and direction being borrowed from Utena, which in turn was also inspired by Takarazuka, so it's a bit much to keep track of. It's all very interesting. It's just a shame that the underlying themes and statements are more interesting than the contents of the anime that present them. The writing is at times overly cringy and just downright pretentious. Character movements, even during simple dialogue scenes, are just over the top to a fault, and most interactions and developments almost feel gimmicky. But then again, how else would you really expect a bunch of high school girls in a gifted theater program to act? It genuinely really grew on me, and partway through the series I didn't really pay it too much mind, aside from the repetition of the Starlight performances, and yeah, I understand why they're doing it, I just don't like it that much. And the ridiculous, excessive pandering monologues during the series' rather drawn-out, artsy conclusion. Visually speaking, Revue boasts some rather impressive choreographed musical-based fight scenes with just a ton of raw passion and energy, while the majority of the day-to-day scenes outside of the auditions suffer from this abundant overuse of slideshow animation. It's a fair, necessary compromise, but it does come off of having Revue feel a little bit dated for 2018 standards. Revue Starlight is Diet Revolutionary Girl Utena, which is not a glowing praise to Utena or an insult to Revue. It's what the former does in a far more manageable, pretty well-presented package, and I genuinely commend it for such a feat. This is Studio Trigger at their best. Restrained. While Trigger's efforts and talents are nothing short of unbound creativity, this same almost improvisational feel to their animation efforts and desire for spectacle or continuing an ongoing joke never really applies well to their attempts at basic narrative structure. Little Witch Academia, while simple, is arguably one of the best OVAs ever created because it did not need to tell a story, it needed to share a world. So, when it came to transitioning those core ideas and themes to a full-length 25-episode series, I felt like the studio really struggled in the second half after the realization that they needed to finish the overarching story they had fumbled to lay out earlier. The fall 2018 anime adaptation of Gridman the Hyper Agent in the form of SSSS.Gridman rectifies the aforementioned shortcomings by leaving Trigger far out of the writer's room to do all of their pretty lights and colors, still keeping their bold direction while leaving the screenwriting to Hasegawa Keiichi, a veteran in the tokusatsu industry responsible for being an active writer in nearly every Ultraman series. This unique collaboration between a leading creator in the anime space, Studio Trigger, and the leader in the tokusatsu giant monster fighting space, Subaraya Productions, gives SSSS.Gridman a feeling all its own. Following Amnesia, Shinji, Thighs, and friends as their city is under constant threat from kaiju attacks, the large, towering monsters that can only be combated by Hyper Agent Gridman, an entity inside of an old piece of junk computer, sharing a mysterious bond with our blank slate main character Hibiki Yuta. But after every battle with buildings in ruin and lives lost, the day seemingly resets with none of the city remembering the invasions that took place, yet those who died during the attack don't ever come back. And it's really hard not to talk about a super early reveal that makes this dynamic far more interesting than I described, but I feel the payoff is well worth the vagueness, as it's a twist I didn't see coming, which does quite a lot coming from what is seemingly a big dumb robot smash other dude anime. And don't get me wrong, for those looking for these larger than life bouts complete with combining power-ups and verbally announcing super special attacks, there's a lot to love about Gridman's rather impressive CG skirmishes, but this is a lot about the series' characters and world building when I can find a scene like this far more interesting and captivating than a scene like this. Basic interactions outside of these citywide fights all feel purposeful, even down to small character tics and mannerisms all have some degree of relevance when, more often than not, the second half of the episode transitions to the punchy part. It's a Monster of the Week formula, but with a big brain and an even bigger heart, unlike that other Studio Trigger collaboration. It's Lupin, but with a 5 in the title. To the uninitiated, Lupin is a long-running staple in the Japanese cartoon landscape, with its first iteration dating back 40 plus years, and while since then the general formula hasn't changed all too much, you still have the gentleman thief Lupin partaking in grand heists, gunfights, and chase-related hijinks alongside his right-hand man Jigen, the quick-drawing marksman, Goemon, the stoic samurai, Fujiko, a seductress criminal, and Inspector Zenigata, the man who's looking to put Lupin behind bars. All of that is still very much there, but alongside an absolutely drastic shift of tone, balancing the cartoonish, whimsical, episodic antics of the earlier parts with a far more mature and macabre presentation, there's a greater focus than ever on story arcs, reoccurring characters, and what feels like actual stakes and risk for the characters involved. Well, sort of. We know Lupin's going to be okay. I've talked about this one before and why I feel the series as a whole is more approachable than ever, alluding to the fact that you shouldn't let the 5 in the title scare you off, so I'll just briefly summarize some of the basics. None of these story arcs and parts that have come before or will come after have any relation with any new part, being a near complete plot and tonal reset for the franchise. Part 4 and the most recent Part 5 have large overarching narratives alongside smaller mini-arcs consisting of several episodes with more structure than the formulaic specials and earlier episode parts that came before them. While this does mean that some arcs can be hit or miss, I guess they never miss, huh? I still vastly prefer this and the added weight and tension it provides, even if it's all rather surface level, breaking up these story arcs that have a larger focus on technology, bringing a thief with at times antiquated measures into the modern age, and the publicity and attention that comes from an ever-connected society are these very beautiful single episode homages to the past parts, visually recognizable by the color of Lupin's jacket, perfectly emulating the look and feel of the time, whether it be a classic red jacket adventure to the bizarreness of whatever the Pink Jacket series was. There is a greater focus on action than ever. The jazzy, punchy OST is one of the best I've heard all year, and the France setting, along with the varied backgrounds, are nothing short of stunning. There's a lot to gush about. I like the not-so-subtle shift from Goemon swiftly and accurately cutting off someone's clothes, leaving them only in their underwear, straight into straight-up stabbing through a dude's skull, and then puncturing a girl's eyes out with her own sharpened nails, then cleanly cleaving her in two. It's great. And of course, the titular Lupin running off a crippling, life-threatening injury after falling several stories and landing on his neck, while in a following scene he brutally murders someone using an Iron Maiden as a pool of blood seeps from the bottom and their dying, raw last breaths of life fade away to silence. It's this beautiful, effortless transition from the macabre and the cartoonish that makes Lupin Well, Lupin. It's a classic in the modern age that is able to adapt and change while still not leaving behind the cultural significance and the impact that made it what it was 40 odd years ago, in 5 parts, several dozen spin-offs, films, and specials later. As a co-founder of the Secret Blanket Society, a devoted shill to all things cute girls and camping, I've been singing the praises of Yori Camp when it was just a blip on the winter 2018 seasonal chart, so I won't try to repeat myself too much here. It's very much in the vein of what you see is what you get, and most will know straight out of the gate whether this concept appeals to them, and with the first episode being free on the Crunchyroll Collections YouTube channel, it's far easier than ever to identify which side of the camp you fall under. A slow, relaxing, near storyless anime depicting a group of high school girls and their interest in off-season camping. This series highlighting several different campsites alongside educational information about everything from fire starting to proper sleeping bags on a budget, and I mean, that's basically it. The interest comes from the atmosphere, the slow, lingering shots, the gentle guitar strums of the orchestrated score, landscapes and vistas, and the simple way sunlight escapes through the parting of leaves and the canopies overhead. It's a series for those who can appreciate the little things. It's several small, individual aspects, feelings, and themes that come together to form an end product that may not be something grand or large scale, but just something that feels whole. If I were to end on one note, I had the most fun and just so much joy this entire year from the last 2 episodes of Yori Camp, with just the ensemble cast together for the first time camping and just doing stuff. And while it's a very simple thing for a slice of life anime to bring all the characters together, it's just very special when Yori Camp did it, and I'm not sure why. It's just special. I really liked it, and I don't have anything clever to say. It was very nice. Tensei Shitarat's Slime Dataken takes the fresh, exciting concept of a down-on-his-luck modern Japanese man through an unfortunate event or chance encounter is transported to a fantasy world akin to your average role-playing game. A stranger in a strange land, granted with mysterious powers, who must learn the ways and rules of this new world and his place in it. They quickly become the center of attention, narrative, and characters all orbiting around their every move, and usually get caught up in a pre-existing conflict with some big evil lord or something equivalent of. So yeah, it's very much a generic isekai through and through, apart from just a fresh coat of paint and a new take on the physical appearance of the main character. Slime doesn't really do anything too radically new, but when you do everything very, very well, for the most part, it doesn't have to change all that much. It's all very tongue-in-cheek, light-hearted, walking the thin line between your more goofy Konosubas and the despair-filled lows of your Goblin Slayers. The series follows a city builder-esque plot structure led and ruled by what appears to be a lowly slime, but in actuality is an immensely strong being gifted with an impressive, ever-growing library of skills and talents. If you were a fan of ReZero's take on its main character, Subaru, trying to overcome these larger-than-life obstacles with the limited hand he was dealt, Slime instead presents a main character that's been dealt the entire deck, and the fun that comes from his near-limitless skills used to solve basically any given problem. Fun, light diplomacy mixed with well-animated, albeit brief fight scenes, and the flourish of clever writing that puts the novel in visual novel makes for a series that just feels good to watch. Visually, especially in regards to the character design, Slime reminds me of a forgotten, unadapted 90s fantasy manga or a lost-to-time anime opening cutscene from a scrapped Tales project, and I mean that in a good way. These designs are a happy medium of classic anime fantasy with that modern dash of clean, sharp line work and expressive facial reactions, and of course, I'm always a bit lenient to recommend these ongoing series, especially those of the light novel adaptation variety, as they often feel more like promotions to boost the sales of the source material rather than these finished narratives. But by the way Slime is shaping up, it's hard not to put aside my very, very deep-seated isekai burnout hatred and give it the praise, at least so far, that it deserves. The last in my self-coveted holy trinity of slice of life anime is one on the surface that appears to be a rather generic, simple series, and that's because it is. It really is. An adaptation of a 4-koma manga series following the daily life of an all-female dormitory of manga artists, published authors with works ranging from shonen to teen romance, young girls balancing their high school lives with their craft. And unlike your average 4-koma adaptation with rather obvious pacing issues systematically alternating between setup and punchline, Comic Girls feels a lot more natural, with episodes far more better structured, focusing on a simple problem or theme while still having that sharpness that a 4-koma provides for the comedy. And I mean, that's really it. You most likely have already seen plenty of series that look and feel just like Comic Girls. It's an ensemble cast interacting and bouncing off each other with quirky side characters, themes of love, creativity, friendship, and passion. It's not that I'm just interested in the material, there just isn't all too much to say. If you like slice of life and the cute girls doing cute things subset of it, this series is most likely already on your radar. But if not, go in knowing that this is a polished work done by a relatively new anime studio that does everything within the genre so exceptionally well. It's heartwarming, fluffy, adorable, with a surprisingly real conclusion. It's a simple, no-nonsense series about creatives striving to be better through hard work, dedication, and the power of friendship. What's not to love? Just about every aforementioned anime on this list can easily fall into a simple category or defining phrase, Eurocamp and Comic Girls being the two cute girls doing cute things entries, while Lupin is a simple action-adventure classic. Devilman Crybaby, on the other hand, is a little bit harder to define. An adaptation of Go Nagai's gory, dark manga Devilman, led by director Masaki Yuasa, known for his near outlandish freeform style funded by dirty Netflix dollars, creates an end product that is so unapologetically bizarre yet unrestrictedly creative. After, let's just say, a not so successful night at the club, once timid, mild-mannered Akira Fudo merges with the devil Amon, becoming the titular Devilman, half man, half devil, garnering newfound popularity at school thanks to his new form and mannerisms, while also getting the attention of the demons in the shadows. No longer human, but not fully demon, he's an outcast between both sides, but stands as the unlikely hero protecting mankind from the impending onslaught. I'm not sure if it's the inner degenerate within inside of me, but there is something so entertaining about Devilman's crudeness, gore, sex, and just this overall dank, uncomfortable feeling present throughout the series' 10-episode runtime. And don't get me wrong, it's not just senseless violence and raunchy sex. There is a lot of interesting themes at work here. Not running from problems, the duality of man, themes of lost trust, and us versus them mentality, and a heaping helping of religious overtones. Stylistically speaking, this is one of Masaki Yuasa's most approachable series yet, with visual inspiration being borrowed from the manga coinciding with the always outlandish science Saru charm, makes for one of his works I can actually recommend to even the newest of anime fans. Let's talk about Netflix. Netflix as a series service for anime is rather lacking in its usual structure of dropping entire series at once. Is fundamentally not appropriate for simulcast, which is why it's so frustrating when great series like Kakegurui and Little Witch Academia just gets swept under the rug with little to no promotion, alongside terrible release schedules and subtitles that make Crunchyroll even look professional, and that is saying quite a lot. But for projects like this, giving talented creators a platform to create and experiment on, financing new series rather than just licensing existing ones, shows Netflix is seriously invested in the anime industry. And yeah, I'm doubtful the dismal conditions of animators in these studios are any less better off, but the unrestricted nature of an online streaming service has the potential to make some pretty damn interesting anime series that just wouldn't be possible to release on Japanese airwaves. Anyway, back to Devilman. The ending is nihilistic, depressing, feeling incomplete, and the ambitions to adapt so much source material into a 10-episode duration makes the second half of the series just feel rushed. Obviously there is plot significance and lots of build-up for literally all hell breaking loose, but just felt like the series was trying to say a whole lot without backing it up with the meticulous pacing present in the first half. I wouldn't call this series a masterpiece, but it is easily one of the most unique entries of the year. Its platform and the fact that it all dropped less than a week into the new year made for quite an unforgettable, dreadful, well-executed passion project that is nothing short of being devilishly clever and imaginative. So that was 2018, a year of Devilmen, slimes, theatrics, kaijus, thieves, and more than just a slice of life. There of course was a fair amount of omissions. Cells at work caught the flu, Hisone Tomasutan was never cleared for a takeoff, and Megalobox pulled its punches, and I'm just one man. Sure, one sad, pathetic man with an unhealthy investment in Japanese cartoons, but there are still the odds and ends of the year I haven't had the time to watch. So I'll be looking forward to having a gay old time with Banana Fish in the new year. There was so much good, just not a lot of great. From a content perspective, I felt I had very little to work with and just felt nothing short of complete and utter burnout chasing the seasonal dragon as a smaller channel. But from a viewer and anime fan's perspective, the highs of the highs far outweighed the lows of the lows. We hit 5,000 subscribers this year, which was a milestone that honestly means the world to me, and I hope to continue to create more consistent, timely content to reflect that appreciation in 2019. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, Mother's Basement, please return my calls. Jeff, I know you're there.